The time, Pope Francis delivering a historic speech before a joint session of Congress this morning that in many ways transcended politics and partisanship. His message both progressive and positive, but not surprisingly political as well, tackling issues like abortion, immigration, climate change. With reaction this morning is Republican Congressman David Valadao, live by phone from Capitol Hill. Congressman, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Doing very well. I've got to ask you right off the bat, have you ever seen anything like that before?
No, I've never. And I was here for the inauguration of a president, but the way these streets are blocked off, the crowds, it's actually been pretty amazing. There are a lot of people that wanted to be here just to see the Pope stand on the street corners. I mean, even last night, I went to the Mass at the Basilica, and as he was pulling out, they were holding back all traffic. We couldn't get out, and I walked around, and someone from my office was on the side of the road, and they said that he literally stopped off at some, what we would say are darker or more dangerous neighborhoods, and he was telling people to pull over, and he was talking to just random people along the side of the street. And this is just a person that wants to reach out and talk to everybody.
It's been unbelievable to watch from afar here in California. Many of his views openly clash with those of Republicans and Democrats. So I'm wondering if that is what it's going to take, a religious leader to actually spark some action by Congress.
You know, he actually did a really good job today, I think, of balancing, of reaching out and talking about the humanity of the things that we do in Congress, making sure that whatever we do is always for what's best for the people of our country and for the best of the people of the world.
Right.
He touched on different topics that were, yes, obviously touchy to different parties, but at the same time, I think he did in a very respectful way. I think he did in a way that most would agree with.
Did you have a chance to meet him?
No, I did not have a chance to meet him. The closest I got when he was driving by in the car, in the Pope Mobile, and I was about 5-10 yards from him.
Right, the Pope Mobile, by the way, American-made. It's a Jeep Wrangler now. This is the first time we've seen a Pope, maybe since John Paul II, being so political, tackling issues that really hit home here in the United States. Climate change, abortion, the death penalty. He called this a critical moment in history yesterday. Tell me, Congressman, as a Catholic yourself, do you feel more connected to his message and more apt to maybe take action on some of these issues?
Well, I always feel connected to these issues. Obviously, a lot of the issues he brought up today are very important to the district. Immigration, abortion are all things that people in my district are interested in and are vocal about. But being a Catholic and having the Pope and being here for the first time, speaking in front of Congress and addressing these issues is something that, yeah, I do feel connected to, and I think they'd have a profound effect on me.
And what was the mood like in the chamber today on Capitol Hill? I mean, this seems like one of these rare moments, certainly the first time in my lifetime, where something like this completely transcends politics. Take us back to Capitol Hill a few moments ago. He wrapped up his speech about 40 minutes ago. What was it like in there?
So one of the things is, because of his accent, it was really hard for us to understand, and I actually had to Google and find the speech because we didn't have printed copies. But the mood was very quiet. I mean, usually there's a lot of applause. This one, everybody was trying to catch every single word and wanted to pay attention to what he was saying and what he was talking about, and obviously applaud where most they agreed. But I think for the most part, everybody's excited. It wasn't like the Netanyahu speech or even a president
or a State of the Union or something like that.
There was obviously some differences. This one, I think most people there were happy to be there, excited about being there, and I think some of the most senior members I've ever seen pushing for good seats to make sure that they were able to be close enough to this.
Yeah, I thought it was ironic and a real testament to our country that two Catholics taking their normal seats, John Boehner and Vice President Joe Biden sitting behind the Pope there. They are both Catholics. Interesting note, too, 3 current Chief Justices are Catholic as well. You're a Catholic. We've got a presidential candidate in Marco Rubio, who's a Catholic right now. I do want to bring this up. I did want to bring this up, Congressman. Dr. Ben Carson, tackling kind of a weighty issue about a week ago, he made a comment that he said he wouldn't vote for a Muslim as president. Now, in most polls, Dr. Ben Carson is second right now. A lot of people thought the Pope might address this. So if I can rewind the clock for a minute, you know, in 1960, a man named John F. Kennedy was the first Catholic elected to the presidency. A lot of people didn't vote for him because of his religion. Now, what does it say about us as a country here in 2015, 70 years later, that this religious issue is still being brought up? And listen, it doesn't matter where you stand on somebody being a Muslim. There's no Muslims running for the presidency right now. But I feel like this is one of those times when our grandkids will say 60 years from now, how could you ever think like that? Kind of like we think about John F. Kennedy now in 1960, and you look behind the Pope, and there's Catholics all over the place in elected office, including yourself.
We saw that even in the last presidential cycle with Mitt Romney being a Mormon, and there was a lot of concern there as well. And
Right.
That conversation has always been there, and it is sad. I think people need to be voted on the merit of what they are, what they believe, and what they want to accomplish in office.
Yeah.
But there is obviously an issue right now in the world with extremist Muslims, and it is playing a role in people's thoughts. And I think that had a lot to play with Ben Carson, who was actually up in the balcony today. He was sitting about 2 seats over from my wife.
Right.
But it is, at the end of the day, I think that we've got to focus on what the people stand for that are running for office, and look to those, and especially if they have a record. If you've got someone who's been elected before, and what their record is, and look at those things, because that'll tell you, their history will tell you more about their future than what their words are.
I agree with you. Congressman, it's been a remarkable couple of days. Donald Trump took a hit after the debate last week. He still does lead in most polls. Who do you like for the Republican nomination in 2016? We're now about 14 months out.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Oh, I was asking, who do you like for the nomination for your party in the election?
I've always said it, and I'll continue to say it. I really like governors.
Yep.
I really like having someone there who's been an executive. I like people who have had to actually work with bodies, legislative bodies. I think when you look back to Reagan accomplished a lot with never having a Republican-controlled legislature.
Ronald Reagan, one of the best governors in California state history.
Work across the aisle. And I like governors that have experience dealing across the aisle and know how to get things done.
So, Congressman, we can get you on record here. I haven't spoken to you in a while, but you're saying it could either be John Kasich or Chris Christie?
Well, there's Jeb Bush in the race, too.
Yeah, a former governor, yep. All right, so that narrows it down. We've now narrowed it to 3 for Congressman David Valadao. The Pope will head to New York later today. Congressman, I know that you brought your wife out from Hanford to Washington, D.C. I saw you guys on the White House lawn yesterday. A pretty remarkable experience, and thanks so much for sharing some of it with us this morning.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, Congress, we'll talk to you again soon.